Thank you all for being here. This is my first time speaking in a tent. Since I am from Nashville, if we had set up a tent, it would have been a tarp duct taped to a tree in the back of someone's minivan. So this is very, very amazing. And I do love being out here and enjoying the weather. And we went to the beach today, which was the first time my wife has been to the beach since she was 6 years old. So that's amazing. Yes, we had a great time. Thank you for the alls and everything from a guy even. That's very sweet. We have a lot to talk about tonight and a shorter time to sort of go over it. So I'm going to go very, very fast. So be sure that you take notes, and if I say anything that you find particularly amazing, feel free to tweet that. If I say something that you do not like, please keep that to yourself because no one really cares what you're thinking. But we have a lot to go through, and I want to challenge everyone tonight to not just think about their business differently, but let's start tomorrow and think about what you're going to do differently and what you're going to actually implement in your business, not just for this year, but again, starting tomorrow, starting this week, the rest of this month. How many of you are perfectly satisfied with your business as is right now? And you can't lie because we're in church. Right, nobody? Wonderful. So you're actually all incorrect. You are absolutely satisfied with where it is because you become content. And if you were actually completely miserable where it was at, you'd be doing something dramatic every single day to change it. So the idea tonight is to actually make you uncomfortable, to realize that the way we market our business is not correct. The way that people have been doing it for decades no longer works, and it's even arguable that some of the methods even worked back then. So what I want to give you tonight is not just how to build your brand and grow your business and those things, but how do you actually make more sales, because that's the point of being in business. Samuel Johnson said that we're basically getting hit with so many messages every single day that it's all noise. We ignore them. We do not want to hear it. No one wakes up and says, I can't wait to see what TV commercials I see today, or drives down the road and says, man, that billboard is amazing. Let me call them, right? We don't do that. There's no relevance to any of it. Now, what's interesting is Samuel Johnson said this over 200 years ago, which means we've been doing it wrong for a very long time, right? Now, this is a true statistic that I made up, that all marketing is pretty much, unwanted, unwelcome. Again, we don't wake up and say, I want to hear from this company today. So the question is, why do we market ourselves the way we hate being marketed to? And why are we not paying attention to the fact that the way we market ourselves affects our brand? So one of the things that's happened a couple years ago, my wife and I were attending a church, and it was a very nice little church there in Tennessee, like most of the churches are, because it's Tennessee, so we have a church every 5 minutes because it's the Bible Belt. And so we go to this church, and it's a great church, and we sit down a couple nights later, Tuesday night or Wednesday night, I can't remember which. We get the kids in bed, which for those of you who are parents know is a minor miracle in and of itself. We sit down, we get ready to eat, Survivor's coming on, and I hear a knock at the door. Now, where we live, it's not really the kind of place that someone would just be knocking on the door, and especially uninvited, unwelcomed, all of unannounced, any kind of unword you can put in front of it would qualify them. So I open the door, and it's people from the church. And me being the kind gentleman that I am, I don't let them in. And I say, what is it that you would, you need? And they say, well, we just wanted to say, hey, thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. I said, wonderful. We got the kids in bed, food's on the plate, about to watch Survivor, so we'll kind of, see you Sunday. And they said, all right, great, so they leave. So next week goes by, life is wonderful, we sit down, we get the kids to sleep, we get dinner ready, we sit down and watch Survivor, there's another knock on the door. Thinking, wow, this is amazing that this happened 2 weeks in a row. So I open the door and it's them again. And I say, hey, let's figure this out, what's tonight? And they're like, hey, again, we just wanted to say hi, see what you're doing. I don't let them in. I say, okay, we're doing wonderful, thank you, and all of that. Next week goes by, nothing happens. I think, wonderful, they have finally gotten the hint that this isn't really the way to market to us. The next week goes by, we get the kids asleep, Survivor starts coming on, I'm about to eat, and the door knocks. And at this point, I'm thinking, unless it is Jesus himself, I'm not going to be happy with whoever's at the door. And even if it was Jesus, I would have to be like, dude, Survivor's on, what time it is. You picked now to come back. So at this point, I open the door, it's them again. I now offer to do consulting with them for free. And so we go to lunch the next day, and I say, hey, let's talk about the door knocking thing. And they said, oh my goodness, glad you mentioned it. We hate doing that. I said, oh, wow, okay. Why are you doing it? And this was his response. He said, in case it works. All right, when was the last time that it worked? Well, it's never worked since I've been here. I'm like, okay, how many are you doing? And he's like, oh, we do this every single night. We have to knock on 100 doors. This is what we do. We're not sure what else we should be doing. So what's happening is that they don't realize that we were fine going to church there, and we were getting what we needed as a family, from that experience. And again, I'm not using this example because we're at a church here tonight. This could be any business. We end up marketing the way we hate to be marketed to ourselves. We hate to be sold to, but we do it because we don't know what else to do. We think that we have to market rather than build a brand. And what you don't understand is that your brand is the difference between you and everyone else who does what you do. And if there's anyone in the room right now who thinks that they don't have any competition, then you probably also don't have any money, because usually when I meet someone who says they've got this amazing idea and no one's ever done it, there's a reason no one's ever done it, right? Because it maybe isn't that good of an idea. So you have to understand that anyone can go and copy your website. They can copy your product, your service. They can be $1 cheaper than you. They can mimic everything about you. What is going to make you stand out and why people are going to do business with you is your brand. You have a question, ma'am, or are you stretching? So sorry, I didn't mean to totally freak you out. Sorry. I thought you had a question. I was thinking, what have I done? Okay, wonderful. Nice, lovely scarf. All right, so as my friend Jay-Z says, and by friend, I mean I own one of his songs, you're not a businessman, you are the business. Whatever you're doing right now, whether you are an employee somewhere or you own the company, what you don't understand is that your logo is not your brand. Your product is not your brand. If you have trucks all painted up, that is not your brand or any of that. You are your brand. People do business with people. And that is going to happen for the rest of all of our lives, right? In 3,000 years, maybe people are doing business with robots, but for now, it's safe to assume you're always going to be doing business with another actual person. So you have to understand, again, even if you think you're just an employee somewhere, you're the brand. You're on the front line. The way you answer the phone determines your brand. The way you dress determines your brand. When someone goes in to have any kind of experience with your business whatsoever, that ends up determining what your brand is. So you have to decide, how am I going to be different? Some of us were talking a little bit ago, and we were talking about this. How do you actually differentiate yourself from everyone else? And one of the ways that you do it is you make a list of everything that your competition does not do, and you go do that. Go do what they're unwilling to do. Do those little things. It's the simple things that make the biggest difference in our brands, and it's what the customers pay attention to the most, because guess what? They're not expecting the simple things. Again, Samuel Johnson said, everybody is throwing out the big promises. Everyone is trying to say, my something is bigger, it's more amazing, you're gonna love it, it's gonna change your life. Everyone is saying the same thing, but nobody's actually doing the little things that matter. And that's what I want to challenge you to do. Now, the bigger brand you build makes up for how to handle the competition. So we've all got that competitor that we feel like we can't compete with. Okay? And so some of you are in industries right now where your competition is worldwide well-known brands, and you don't know how to compete because you're just maybe a solo entrepreneur. Maybe you only have a handful of employees. How in the world do you compete? Well, you actually have a great advantage today, because with the internet and social media and all of those things, there's a lot of cool ways to beat the bigger brands, and we'll talk about that later. But that's the thing that you have to understand is Oprah isn't hurting for opportunities, right? When her show ended, she wasn't sitting there saying, I don't know what to do next, right? It's gonna happen. If Rick Warren writes another book, there's gonna be a publisher who says, we'll publish it, right? That's the way it works. So when you sit there and say, I'm in X business, stop that. Like, man, what business are you in?
Auto repair.
Auto repair. You're now in the branding business. You're the brand, right? Especially auto repair, where people already come in and say, I'm scared to death and I don't know anything about cars whatsoever. The rental car they gave us, by the way, was a Prius. Can you imagine me fitting into a Prius? And here's the thing, I'm a redneck from Tennessee. It didn't have a key. It's just the touch start. Took us 20 minutes to get out of the airport. Yeah, you all laugh now. That's why I'm not moving to California, because I don't understand all this fancy technology where I've got to push a button. I've also forgot to turn it off every single time we have parked and gotten out of the car. So that is amazing in and of itself. The problem with blasting our messages everywhere is there's no trust component, right? So we try to get everyone to know who we are, but just because they know who we are doesn't mean that they're gonna do business with us. So again, this is where people fall in that trap. They see what the big brands are doing. They see what the Oprahs are doing, or Pepsi, or Starbucks, or you name the big brand, and they say, all right, I gotta get out there. I need people to see my logo 1,000,000 times. I need people to see my marketing messages. I need to be consistent. But none of that is necessarily building trust with your audience, and that is the problem. So right now, and obviously I haven't met you, I don't know how much money you make, but if you're sitting there right now and you're thinking, I'm not making the amount of money in my business that I would like to make, or that I think I deserve, or that I think I'm actually capable of doing, this is why. Because you're too busy trying to sell the product or service that you have rather than trying to establish trust. I've been doing this for 13 years, and I can tell you that trust is the big thing, and people by default are untrustworthy. That just ends up being the way it happens. Now, and I need you to not take a picture of this, because what happens is this comes up, people take a picture of me doing this, and then they post it on Facebook, and there's no context. So now I'm just the crazy Tennessean driving, the creepy van. So let's post a different picture of me on the social media. But again, this is the point, right? We don't trust people. When when our car breaks down and we need auto repair, trust becomes our biggest concern. Are they telling us the truth? Are they charging us, a fair amount? We don't know, right? And that's in any industry, anywhere, whether it's real estate or any kind of sales. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Trust or lack thereof is a huge problem. It's really sad that we live in a world where trust is so scarce. But if we realize that and change the way we market ourselves and change the way we build our brand, you're now gonna win way more than anyone else because you get this. So again, it's very sad that this is the world we live in, yet this is what gives you your biggest advantage. I've been doing this for 13 years, and I can tell you that the thing that the billion-dollar brands know that you don't, the secret sauce that you're trying to figure out, how did they do that? How did they get to where they are? Is trust. That's it. They understand it. Disney gets it. Apple gets it. Richard Branson's Virgin Companies, they get it. They understand that if they can get you to trust them, they win. Now, obviously, by the way, as a side note, you have to actually be trustworthy. So I'm assuming that everyone here is, so I just wanted to throw out that clarification. But that's the thing, is it's all about trust. When you start off, like tomorrow when you wake up, you are here and your customer is there. You're far apart. Okay? That's how you start. Again, they're a prospect, right? They're a lead. Whatever you want to call them, that's what they start as. They don't know you yet. As you build trust, you'll see the path of making that sale becomes shorter. So if you want more sales, build more trust. Here's another thing that happens with people. We start selling to people when we don't have trust. How many of you tonight, and it's okay, have given your business card to someone? Like all of you, that's amazing. You've all done your homework. Well, wonderful. So how many of you, when you did that, are hoping that that person is going to do business with you or send a referral to you? Why did not the same amount of hands go up? Some of you are doing so well. No, don't send business to me. It's amazing. Right? So you're doing that, right? Because you want that sale. You're ready to go for the sale immediately, and that makes sense. We're in business to make money. Yes, we want to do good and we want to save people and help and all that, and I have to say that because we're in church, but we are in business to make money. That's oxygen. It's how we keep score, right? Without money, your business is going to fail. Even a charity has to think of, how do we sell ourselves? So again, what happens is people do business with people they know, like, and trust. We've heard that cliche 1,000,000 times, but we forgot the last one. We're really concerned with people knowing us. We're really concerned with making sure people like us, and then we forget the trust part. So what happens now is when we go to make a sale, it's in proportionate to the amount of trust we have. That's the thing I want you to really grasp. If you sell something that's, let's say, $10,000, don't make that sales pitch until you have $10,000 worth of trust. Do you see what I'm saying? If you sell something that's only $50, okay, that's fine, but still don't sell it until you've got $50 worth of trust built up. Now, the good news is the rest of the presentation is going to be about how to build that trust, so don't freak out right now if I don't know how to actually do this. And by the way, if anyone stood up here and said, just be trustworthy and turns off the mic, they don't know what they're doing. There's actual strategies to building this. But again, here's a great example. There's a doctor, and I don't want to say his name because I don't want to, call out anyone, but his name's Dr. Daniel Amen, and he writes wonderful books about the brain and how to heal your brain and make sure that you're smart forever and all that fascinating work. I'm a fan of his. I've bought his books. I have a few of them. I plan on reading them, and I've watched some of his TV stuff. So I find him on Twitter and I say, I'm going to follow this guy because I've already got some of his stuff. This will be great. As soon as I follow him, I get an auto tweet right back to me, direct message that says, thanks for the follow. Here's an $800 coupon for some kind of thing that he does. Okay, now, first of all, I just started following the guy. And second of all, what is it he's selling that he can just give off $800 just because he followed him on Twitter? Right now, I'm thinking this thing has to be 25 grand. I'm scared to death. We don't have that level of trust yet. So he went for all of it. He was all in. It's like, guys, you can't go on the date and then that evening say, let's go back to my place and we're going to get married and we're going to be engaged for a little while, get married, get divorced, and this is going to be great. We can't do that. You have to date for a while. Same thing happens here. Same thing happens in business. You have to build that trust. The first way you do that is by positioning yourself as an authority. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is why content online is so popular. Social media, videos, blog, things like that, right? That's what you have to do. If you want to beat your competition, out-educate them. Be more helpful to your prospects than they are. Be the person who's willing to help them first and then ask for the money later, because again, everyone else is asking for that money right up front. You want to position yourself as a resource and not just another service provider. So a service provider is, again, just someone who is seen as a salesperson, right? So let's take real estate, for example, because I know some of you are in real estate. I used to own a real estate business, so this is very personal to me. Most people who are in real estate, what do? We try to sell houses. That's how we make our money. So we're constantly in sales mode, right? Let me give my business card to people. Let me network. Let me meet 1 million people every single day. That's what I have to do. And so what happens is everybody sees us as a service provider. Oh, you're in real estate? That means you're a salesman. Oh, what? Again, it doesn't matter. Fill in the blank, right? So what happens is, let's keep with the real estate example. What changes now is, imagine if you blog, you do social media, all of your marketing is about educating people. All of it is, here's what you need to know about the market and where it is right now. Here's tips for selling your home without an agent. No, they can't sell it without an agent, right? We've all tried that. It doesn't work. You're going to end up being mad. You're going to give in. You're going to go with the agent. But if you're the agent who's, instead of saying, hire me, said, you can sell it on your own. Here's some tips. God bless you. Have a great life. They're going to say, oh my goodness, that was different. That was non-threatening. Let's call the person who tried to help us in the first place. Imagine what would happen if you did that in your own industry. If you tried to educate and help people and just be that go-to resource. So if someone has a question, don't say, I can answer that. When can we meet? And you give them a sales presentation. That's not what they want. Go online and answer their question. This is amazing. I see this every single day between the photos of people's food and photos of their pets. I then see people asking questions, and no business people, no entrepreneurs are ever coming in and answering them. And it drives me crazy. I have almost started 1,700 different businesses just because I've wanted to go in and answer their questions. I've seen people who will post and say, my yard looks horrible. What can I do to spruce it up on a budget? And no lawn care company, no landscaper comes in and says, here's a couple tips I'd recommend. Because you know what's going to happen. They're going to go out there, and if they're like me, they're going to get sweaty and be miserable, and then they're going to go in and they're going to say, honey, I've got an even better idea. I've hired a guy to come do this. Now it's going to be great. Was what happened? All he did was come in and say, here's how to do it. He didn't say, call me. He didn't say, well, how about we come out and give you an estimate, which no one wants to have happen, right? We don't wake up and say, I'd really like someone to give me an estimate today. No one's ever said that in the history of the world, and if you have said that, very weird. The second thing is affinity, putting your personality into what you do. So again, when I said earlier is you are the brand. And I know that that's a paradigm shift for some of us. Understand that you already have a brand. This is the good news. Everyone who's ever met you already has an opinion of you. That's your brand. I mean, that's all it is. Again, it's not logos, it's not what you sell or what you do. It's you. When you came in tonight and you sat down next to the person right next to you, they looked at you and in a split second, they judged you. I know it shouldn't happen because we're at Saddleback, but it did, right? It absolutely happened because we're human and that's what we end up doing. So you have to put your personality out there because a lot of times that's what's different. What happens if you have a competitor who actually is good at what they do? What if they are trustworthy? What if they have a good price? What if you don't hate your competition? If you think, you know what, I don't blame people for hiring them. Well, how do you compete? Your personality. That's how you compete because that's what makes you different. Some people are going to relate to you, some people are going to relate to them, and there's enough business for all of us out there, so that's okay. This picture is a picture of my dad and one of his brothers. Forget the brother, we don't care about him. The little one in the back, that's my dad. Now, my dad grew up in a town called Gainesboro, Jackson County, which I assure you none of you have heard of, because unless you have lived there or your father is from there, no one's heard of it, right? They were so poor, you see these empty cans there. This is Christmas Day, and that was their Christmas presents. They grew up on a farm. Look, school ended at 8th grade because no one in town was smart enough to teach 9th. So, what happened though is my dad, by the way, my dad and mom started dating. My dad moved to the city, met my mom. Their first date was supposed to be a drive-in movie and pizza. My dad had never heard of either. Right? I can't imagine that existence, but that's what happened. So what happened when my dad decided he would start his own business? He was an electrician, wanted more, wanted to, like all of us, have that freedom, help people. What did he do? He went to different job sites where builders were building new homes, and he went up and became friends with them. But he didn't say, you build great houses, because that's what they hear all day long. He said, do you like football? Who is your favorite team? Here's my favorite team, which by the way is the Packers, so how awesome is that right now? So I know my dad will be crying for a year, it's amazing. I'm not a Packers fan, so when I see them lose like that, it's like, yep, that's awesome, go Seahawks. So what happens then is, he would then ask them about kids. Do you have any kids? And they would say, yes, I do. And he'd say, do your kids get on your nerves? And they'd say, absolutely. He'd be like, mine too. They would all of a sudden bond based on personality. And then what happens? Feels like a friend. We do business with people we know, like, and trust. He didn't just pull up and say, let me give a presentation, give us a shot, let me tell you why you should use us, or we're the cheapest, or anything like that. Didn't work on, right? You go and you put your personality out there. Now, by the way, let me just say, if you're thinking right now that this really scares you because maybe you don't have that great of a personality, that's okay. Understand this and write this down. Income improvement follows self-improvement. When you get better, your business gets better. If you want your customer service to improve, the people delivering the customer service in your company need to improve. If you want your sales to be better, the people who do the sales have to be better. So you can work on this, and you can be an introvert. You can find those areas. I talk a lot about my mother-in-law. The devil, you've heard of her, right? Wonderful lady. I know, and everybody's looking at my wife. She knows, she grew up with her. So, give her the microphone if you really want to hear. So, anyways, people will see, now they expect me to do it, because I'll tweet stuff like, my mother-in-law gave me a plant called mother-in-law's tongue. I threw it in son-in-law's trash. And people then are saying, okay, they're looking for the next mother-in-law joke. Well, the reason that I do that is because, it's that part of my personality. I don't talk about some other people in my family because no one cares. As you put out your personality, the 20-60-20 rule is going to come into play. And this basically means that 20% of people are going to love you. They're going to love your personality. They think you're amazing. 60% aren't going to care, or anything like that. They don't know you exist, and so we don't really want to fool with them. And 20% are going to hate you. They're just not going to like you at all, right? And that's okay, and here's why it's okay. When the 20% who don't like you maybe mention that, the 20% who love you get really fired up and come to your defense. If I went up to any 13-year-old lady or 30-year-old lady and told her that I hate Twilight, I have a fight on my hands, right? The author doesn't have to come and defend herself because this lady is going to absolutely come and attack me. And people are going to, again, not everyone is relatable to each other. We all have different personalities, and that's okay. So people are not going to like you because you're successful. They're not going to like you because you're a bigger brand than them. They're not going to like you because they don't like the way you talk or they don't like the way you look. Here's a secret about good-looking people. We aren't that well liked. So it doesn't matter what happens, people are going to have it. So you have to put yourself out there and just trust the people who are going to be your 20% who love you. The next thing is demonstration. When was the last time you actually demonstrated your promises? So if you say, we've got great customer service, when was the last time you demonstrated that? This picture was from several years ago. I do not know why Mickey dressed up as a redneck. I guess Hillbilly Mickey knew that I was from Nashville. But this was taken in Disney World. You know, the real one? And, oh, come on. If you've been to Disney World, you know Disneyland's cute and adorable, but let's get real. Okay, so it's a Disney World. This is my sister-in-law, Carly. Let me just disclose, there's 17 years difference between my wife and my sister-in-law. I know I'm from Tennessee, and we marry our cousins at 13. I didn't want you to think that's what happened here. So she's just a lot younger. Years and years ago, she got diagnosed with diabetes, and we decided she was, having to give herself shots and all that every day. Let's take her to Disney World. She'd never been. This will be amazing. We get there, and we've been there a few days. Everything was going great. And then one morning, we're getting ready, and she drops her insulin bottle, and it shatters, and it's the last bit of medicine we have. She freaks out. Other family members were kind of freaking out, and I'm panicked because I'm ready to go ride the rides, and now this is, just ruined the whole day. So I called down to the front desk to let them know this problem. Now, what do you think happened? What do you think happened? You think they helped?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know why they helped? Because this would not be a good story if it ended badly, and I wouldn't be telling. So I call, and the guy acts like he gets this call every single time, and he says, we've got our own pharmacy. Do you have her stuff back home? We can refill it. I did not know that Disney had a pharmacy. That's amazing. And thankfully, my wife had brought the info, so we got it. So the guy calls back. He says, we have got it. It'll be refilled in 2 hours. We can meet you at the park and give you the medicine. Disney says, we're the happiest place on earth. We want you to have a great time. We want it to be a fun experience. And they demonstrated it. Now notice that they're not marketing this story. They didn't submit a press release that says, we helped John Morgan with his sister-in-law who can't hold on to things and do that, right? Instead, they just demonstrated it. And so now I'm telling people for them. So demonstrate what you actually promise. Show people how good you are. Also communication, and obviously social media allows us to communicate in big ways and very effectively. You need to market with people and not at them. As we have talked about this entire time, everyone's blasting messages out people instead of talking with them. Again, when you look at social media, go to Twitter and do a search. Search any term in your industry. You're going to see people chatting about it, having a real conversation right then. It happens all the time. I've seen real estate agents pick up so much business because they'll see someone tweet, we're in town for the weekend and we're trying to ride around and look at houses, and the real estate agent, by the way, doesn't be not creepy, okay? They don't write them and say, I can help you or any of that, because there's no trust. They would write them and say, here's 2 or 3 open houses you should check out while you're in town. Enjoy your trip. Right? Part of a conversation now. That person's going to write back and say thanks. Who are they possibly going to call? Maybe them, maybe not, but you now have a shot. Right? And that's what we're all wanting. So you want to market with people and not just at them. I'm tired of all these businesses and entrepreneurs putting up all these barriers to people being able to contact you. And I'm not saying that people should be able to text you at midnight. You don't need to be available 24/7. I think that is absolutely crazy. And then the business isn't serving you. You're a slave to it. But you have to be able to communicate with people. If your customers can't email you when they've got a question, what are you doing? You're going to get annihilated in business because it's only going to be more and more that people want that kind of interaction. Promotion is our last one here, and we've talked about this earlier. Everything you do is branding. The way you market yourself matters. I told the story of the church earlier. Think about people who still cold call. And their whole strategy there is, I'm going to call 100 people and sell to one of them. One of them will buy. Okay, one will buy, but you now have 99 people who hate you and hate your brand and are going to tell their friends about it, right? So understand the way you market yourself matters. This means if you blast out an email to people and they didn't sign up to actually receive that email and you're just kind of spamming them, they're not going to think wonderful things about your brand. So again, think about that. If you are in the service kind of industry where you show up to someone's house or office and you say, I'll be there at 10, and you're not there at 10, that affects your brand. Now, let me just say on a side note, a lot of people in my industry, meaning who get up here and speak and write books and things like that, they will tell you that the customer defines your brand. And that is flat out not true. It's an excuse to throw away the responsibility, okay? You determine your brand, you define it. Now, your customers will tell you whether or not you're right or wrong, but you define it. If I go up to you at a networking event and you say, John, what do you do? I don't say, you tell me, right? I tell you what I do, right? I'm gonna define it. Look, think, 15 years ago, we all would have defined Apple as a computer company. Today, none of us really would, not first and foremost. And why is that? Because 15 years ago, Steve Jobs decided we're not a computer company. We all had to agree, right? We all had to confirm that, or maybe not, but that's what it starts. So put this responsibility back on yourself. Did we lose the slides? That's sad. It's okay. There they are, amazing. Computer must have went to sleep. Thanks, guys. So again, you define your brand. And I want you to all write this down, because if there's one thing that you take away, actually there's two things I really want you to take away, and I'll get to that one in a minute because it's big and important. But write this down. Anything that you say about your business is taken as a claim. Anything others say about your business is taken as a fact. Right? So of course you think you're amazing. Right? Imagine right now if my mom came up here and said, this kid's book is phenomenal and you should all go buy a copy. How much credibility does that have? Very little, right? It's my mom. I mean, she should say that. If she doesn't, we both need to be in therapy. So, think about that. The way you market yourself matters. When we talked about demonstrating that you're good at what you do, here's another thing. I don't know why testimonials are so underused. They're the most effective weapon we have. Social proof is extremely important. And I know one guy, I spoke at an event a while back, this guy had over 200 testimonials. I said, what are you doing with them? He said, nothing. Why is that happening? Why, right? Understand that your brand is not a campaign. This isn't something that you can say, all right, John, I get it. I'm gonna go do this branding thing for a few months and see what happens. That's how you do marketing. A marketing campaign has a beginning, and a marketing campaign has an end. Your brand keeps going. It may adjust over time, and that's fine. It should. As you grow, since you're the brand, your brand should grow. It should not look the same 5 years from now, because you're gonna grow and have different interests and add different elements to your business. So your brand's not a campaign, it's a commitment. It's something that you say, okay, this is what I'm gonna stand for. If you look at Zappos, they have committed to customer service. We don't sell shoes, we provide great customer service. That's what they do over and over and over. They're committed to it. Did they invent customer service? No. Did they invent good customer service? No. Are there companies that provide better customer service? Yes. So again, when we sit there and think, I've got to be so unique, no, you just got to do the simple things really, really well. The big thing that I wanted you to take away from this, because this applies to life and not just business, okay? So let's get a little wide with the context right now, all right? Achievers seek results and not approval. So often we wake up every single day and what we're trying to do is get the approval of others. We're trying to do these things like, hey, let me get 10 likes on my Facebook photo, or if I don't have a couple dozen on Instagram, I'm gonna have a heart attack, right? I love social media, but the one negative thing that it's done is it's made us chase approval. We want people to be our friends before we end up wanting the results in our business. We are so concerned with doing everything right and everyone approving that what we're doing, that we're afraid to go out and fail. I'll tell you right now, the reason I've had success, and maybe I've had some success more than some of my competition, is because I fail a lot more than them. I look at it like a race. How many times can I go and screw up because I'm just gonna keep going. And by the way, I'm not good at this. I fail all the time. But this is the thing, I care about the results, not necessarily the approval. The approval comes after, right? And for those of us who believe, look, we've already got the ultimate approval from God. Our family loves us. Your friends love you. You've already got the approval that you need. W. Clement Stone said, by the way, if you don't know who W. Clement Stone is, certainly do research. He wrote a book called The Success System That Never Fails, which is phenomenal. W. Clement Stone lived a long time ago, but one of the things that he said that to me was one of the most powerful is, any day that's a social success is a business failure. Imagine if he was alive today. He didn't even have the internet, which is sad and horrible. But, so he didn't have social media. He would have a heart attack today if he saw what we're doing. We're chasing fans. We're chasing Twitter followers. We're chasing, website visits. We're chasing all of the wrong things. I know so many people who say, my number one business goal right now is I need to get 1,000 fans on my Facebook page. And I say, what are you going to do when you have those people? I don't know, but it's going to be awesome. Right? We fall into that trap. I used to fall into this trap. It's easy to do. We all want to be loved. But that's not what makes you a success. People will end up approving you. People will end up loving you. You do have a question now? Oh, wonderful. Let's do that. The Success System That Never Fails, which you'll probably have to get on Amazon because I think it's out of print. How many of you have heard or read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? Okay, so he mentored W. Clement Stone. The two of them together founded Success Magazine, and now you all know how much of a history nerd I am. So it didn't make me popular with the ladies when I was in high school reading all these books, so the first one that said, I'll go out with you, I married. So again, I'm after the results, right? Not the approval. This will work. She said yes, that's a result. Let's go move on to something else, right? We got things to do. So again, stop going out and seeking, all of these different social things, all these different things in your business. Seek the results. Thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope to see you all soon.